Our guest is Rubin Benson. He's a graphic designer, a graphic artist. He's an author, he's a publisher, entrepreneur, and he's an all-around good guy. My good brother. Welcome to our program. How you doing, man?
I'm doing fine, man. How about yourself?
I'm good. I'm good. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Share some of your background with us, and to where you're now producing and promoting your second book. So give us a little bit of background, how you got involved with all of this.
Okay. I'm a graduate of Cheney University. I was supposed to be a graphic arts school teacher, shops and all that, and that didn't really work out too well, and I decided to go into the graphics industry, which is advertising and design. And I proceeded to do that. I moved to New York City, started going in and out of ad agencies, becoming a freelance graphic artist for agencies. That was fulfilling to a certain point, but then at a certain point it wasn't. I came back to Philadelphia and became publication designer for Cheney University. I did that for 2.5 years, left there and decided to open up my own graphic design studio or firm. And that was successful up to a point also, and I started doing graphics for many independent companies and institutions. Designed logos, corporate identities, books, brochures, catalogs, album covers. And I ran into a friend of mine that, he wasn't my friend at the time, but I had read an article in Black Enterprise about Kenneth Gamble, who at that time was the owner and operator of Philadelphia International Records. I sent him a letter congratulating him on, I had seen him in a Black Enterprise magazine, naming him the third largest black business in the country. But I thought that his ads sort of sucked a little bit. It didn't have any charisma, no punch, no snap at all. So I sent him a letter congratulating him on the fact that he had achieved such a high honor through Black Enterprise. But I told him that his ad could use a little help. His ads could use a little help. He handed that letter to a woman by the name of Becky Butler, who's no longer with us now, but he gave her that letter. She called me at my office at that time and said that Mr. Gamble said, if you're going to, don't talk about it, be about it. And she invited me around, she looked at my portfolio, and she started giving me work. And from that day up till probably now, I was legitimately doing almost all of Philadelphia International Records, or advertising and design, except some of the album covers I coordinated, but some of them I also designed myself. I then went throughout the years of doing all of this work, going between CBS and Philadelphia for Gamble. For Mr. Gamble, I came up with the idea that his prolificness as it relates to album covers was extensive, and that people need to see how extensive his music was, besides the fact that you hear it on the radio almost every 20 minutes. You hear a Gamble and Huff song. The reality is most folks from the era that album covers was being done used to hold on to those covers. They enjoyed looking at them. I thought that it would be a great retrospect to put all of those books together in one volume and let people see the prolificness of Gamble and Huff's records.
Now, how did you go from the idea and the concept to actually making it happen?
Well, probably somebody was thinking, well, that's simple. You just go into Gamble's catalog of album covers that he has stashed in some closet somewhere and photograph them and reuse them. But that was more than a notion. He had some He had quite a few, but he did not have all. Because some of the things that, you know, he may not have considered, well, no, I'm not going to say that, because every one of those was important to him, except he was about the music, not the covers. I can recall a time where Gamble said to me in a meeting, and other folks that was in a meeting, we were going over a Phyllis Hyman cover, matter of fact. And there was individuals in that meeting who were saying that I should change this, and why didn't I do this, and why not change all these pieces. And Gamble cut through them and told them that none of that matters because radio sells music, not covers. And so that's his philosophy. His philosophy was that music sells music, covers don't sell music, therefore it's not absolutely that important to him. He just wants to put some package, some container, he wants a container for his music. And he wasn't going to bump no release date because of somebody don't like a color on a cover. That makes no sense to him. So we would just proceed. So his importance to the covers never was that much enhanced. Yet 90% of all the covers was Gamble's concept. So he did have a affiliation with each cover because everything that was done was based on what he wanted to see, what he wanted to believe should be a cover. And so was
he totally hands-on for all of that, everything?
If you asked him, he would probably say no, but the reality is yes. Everybody knew who had to say yes to. And he's a conceptual person anyway. That's his nature. So his thing is, if he thought of an album cover that he wanted, he would give you that idea, and I would take that idea to Ed Lee up at CBS, or I would call Ed, and we would converse back and forth until Gamble got what he wanted. And so basically, this book that I did was basically a labor of love. It was because I had such a close attachment to the Philadelphia International Records imagery that it was just a natural thing for me to show the imagery and the art that was done in almost all of those covers.
Now, you're being modest because, like you said, you had a lot to do with the design of some of those covers, and you won awards for some of those covers. I mean, people don't know that, you know, there's a Grammy, there's an Oscar, the Tony, but there's awards for design, just like the Oscars give for music scores and all that kind of. So you got a whole passel of awards for those album covers.
I mean,
man.
It's strange you would bring that up, but yes, I mean, some of the things that occurred, you would present those to award-winning groups. Like one was called the SIBA Awards, which was Communication Excellence to Black Audiences, which was held in New York City. I was a judge for that, matter of fact, where people would send in, advertising agencies would send in their artwork and show that artwork off in a yearly awards dinner, and some of those albums that was done definitely received awards.
Now, did you go all the way back to his total history? Because before there was Philadelphia International, he was an independent producer, but it wasn't under Philadelphia International. So did you get all of those too?
No, I was only concerned with the production of Philadelphia International Records and his affiliate labels under Philadelphia International Records. Like he had the Gamble label, he had the TSOP label, he had and the Philadelphia International Records label and the Peace International Records label. So under those, he produced albums for artists under those different labels.
Give us a look at the book.
Okay.
Show, and
this is the book, and inside is a complete. This is every cover. Well, to be absolutely honest, I found a cover, which is interesting because I found a cover. I went into a record store about a month ago and found a cover that I had never seen before. I thought I had them all. I missed one. So I immediately, before I could even get out the store, I got on the phone and I called Kenny Gamble. And I said, Gamble, do you remember an Archie Bell and the Drells album? And I named the album, and he said, yeah, I remember that. I remember who did that. I said, well, you know, that didn't make the book. He said, Rubin, I forgot all about that album. I thought you had gotten them all. So, again, so to me right now, instead of it's 150 covers, I know there's exactly 150 covers that Gamble did.
Okay. Now, in addition, it's not just an artistic display. You give some biographical background on each particular artist and each particular group. So how long did it take you to gather all of that information?
4.5 years of actually gathering the information. What occurred was, once I finished photographing the covers that I found or that I gotten, and making them pristine for printing, I took all of the, I put it together, and through a conversation with a brother by the name of Harry Coombs, who at that time was executive vice president for Philadelphia National Records, who had retired, I spoke with him, and him and I had constant conversations, and he would tell me about, and I would say, well, the book's finished. He said, well, no, Rubin, the book's really not finished. You really need to say how Gamble met Teddy Pendergrass, how Gamble met the OJs. You need to tell more of the history behind the artist and its relationship with Kenny Gamble and Leon Huff. So I proceeded down that road, which meant that I had to do a lot of research. And in that research that I did through interviewing people and asking questions, they gave me the information as it relates to that particular artist. Like the OJs, I would talk with Eddie Laverne and the people around him, and I would find out how. I would ask Gamble, how did you actually get introduced to Eddie Laverne, and he would give me the information. And I would just write all of this down so I would have something to coordinate with each cover.
Now you self-published this, so what was that process like? Now this was not your first book.
Right.
You've done other books before,
right,
but you were more of almost like a historian, looking at either individuals or cities. So what was the difference between those and this?
All right. Well, the difference is, well, really, it really wasn't that much difference outside of I got this printed outside the country. This book, the last book I did was printed in China. This book was printed in Malaysia. I went on the internet, scouted around to see who would give me the best deal, and this printing company in Malaysia gave me the best deal. And I did a contract with them, produced 1,200 books. They got it printed for me. They shipped it into America. I had them picked up and delivered to me.
All right. So now you're in the process of promoting the book.
Right.
So how can people get more information about the book, and how can they get a copy of the book?
All right. Well, it's two. Well, one, you could buy it on Amazon. You could just type in. It's called Philadelphia Music Makers. You just type in that in your browser, and it'll come up in Amazon. Or you can go to firstimpressionsbooks.com, and you can buy it directly from firstimpressionsbooks.com. Or you can go to Barnes & Noble within the next 2 months, and they'll have the book. It'll be in limited quantity, but they'll have it there also.
Now you're talking, this is nationwide or regional or what?
Well, this is regional. Because to fulfill the fulfillment for a Barnes & Noble is a minimum of 6,800 books, of which I could not afford to have done. So you literally have to go to each individual store in your locale, and the manager at these stores have
some discretion. They can
have the discretion. If they like the book, they can actually bring the book into their particular store. And right now, there's 2 particular stores that I have an affiliation with right now, which is University of Pennsylvania and also Drexel, which is amazing because most people say, well, where's Barnes & Noble? Barnes and Noble have basically taken over all
You're
of
on the campus.
all the campuses,
Yeah.
all of them, and so you that's the way to reach that market. But like most things, if you can't run with the big dogs, you must stay on the porch, because in order to do fulfillment for there's large major book distributors, took gigantic quantities, and like I said, their minimum quantity for Barnes and Noble is 6,500 books have to go to their warehouse, which has to be insured, which has to be due dates, there's a lot that has to go on to reach them. So if you can't handle that kind of quantity, you just can't deal with it. You have to do it on a self-publishing, store-by-store basis.
Now, some of your other books you did e-books.
Yes.
Are you planning to do that with this one?
This is an e-book.
Okay.
It's an e-book now. They can also be gotten on Apple's iBook store. Both the books, matter of fact.
Now, what does a book retail for?
The book retails for $25.
Now, there may be some mentoring programs, or say something like, say here in Philadelphia, the Clef Club or whatever, they might want to give it to some of their students. So you give group bulk discounts.
Oh, absolutely! I'd give a wholesale discount for the books, which range from, it could be negotiable, but right now it's like $14.75 is the wholesale rate.
All right. Now, as the designer for many of the album covers, as someone who was there in the meetings and going through the whole concept and design for that particular artist or those artists, and having experienced this whole process, are you going to incorporate that in your marketing? In other words, it would seem to me that a lot of universities, colleges, you would be an ideal person to come to talk about this whole process, not just the book, but that whole process.
Right.
Whether it's just say here, the University of Arts, or what's the other one that's here in Philly, it would seem to me that would be an ideal place, not to mention all the HBCUs that are out there.
Right, absolutely. Well, to put it bluntly, I'm up for all of that. But as you know, Rick, I'm like a one man band, and I'm trying to cover as much territory as I can. And every time somebody brings me an idea, I jot it down and I try to get to it, and eventually I'll get to it. Each one of those phases. Right now, it's like, when you get a book deal, the publishing company takes over. The writer, the author, you basically sit back. They do the marketing.
Right.
They do all of the due diligence to make that book happen, because they're invested. This book, for me, I'm invested, but I'm a one-man show. So I do as much as I can. I try to reach the audience as fast as I can. And as I march my way through it, I'll reach everything. I try not to drop the ball on some things, but sometimes I do. But at the moment that at the point that I'm at right now, I'm up for anything like that.
Well, the other thing too is, in addition to this, you have your graphic design, your marketing, your advertising, all of that. You're still doing that.
Right. I still have to
put food on the table.
Right. In other words, no book publisher gave me an advance.
Right.
To do this book. They all, and by the way, I went to publishers to get this book done. But what happened is, at the time I went, CBS at the time, well, let's back up. Sony bought out CBS. And so CBS, when I went to Sony to attempt to get them to publish the book, since Philadelphia International Records was an artist under CBS, and when they assumed the CBS properties, Gamble and Huff, Philadelphia International Records became part of that property. So of course, one of the first people I went to was them, because they were the first ones to give me permission to even do the book anyway. And when I went to them, they took me to some publishers. One publisher in particular was Sterling Publishing out of New York City. They were very much interested in the book up to a point. They thought that it would be better for them if this book included all of R&B music, which was hard to do.
Right. How can people get in contact with First Impressions to either talk to you? And I know your time is busy. I mean, your time is limited. But just to talk to you, to book an engagement, a book signing party. You got some ideas in terms of using this as art and doing the combination, because you do have physical facsimiles and the actual album covers. Well, so one of the things you're doing is doing
now
an exhibit.
I actually have every cover that's in the book, including the one I just found. So I have totally 100. Gamble has 151 actual covers. Well, they call them containers, but actual containers of his music. I actually have each one. And so what I plan on doing is a retrospect where I would possibly get some space, some studio space or gallery space, and literally put all the albums up and let people see the prolificness of the Gamble and Huff legacy, so that they can literally see. And a lot of people will possibly, if you came from that era, you will remember those covers.
All right, so how can people get a hold of First Impressions?
It's many ways. You can go to firstimpressionsbooks.com. You can go that way to contact me, because there's a email address attached to that. Or you could call me at 215-472-1660, which is my studio number.
Slow down. Give that. Go ahead.
215-472-1660, which is my studio number. Or you could like I said, you could go to the website.
Okay. Now the e-commerce is available on firstimpressionsbooks.com, so they can use a credit card, PayPal.
Absolutely. Whatever is convenient.
Okay. All right. Okay. We're almost out of time. Where do you see yourself going with this in the short term and then long term?
Well, in the short term, I plan on attempting to sell this book to reach the people so that they can appreciate. So that hold on, let me slow it down. I plan on showing the book to more people so that they know that the book is available through advertising, having book signings and that kind of thing. But as I stated before, I'm a one-man show and I'm working on another book. So there isn't but so much time in the day. I have I believe that this book is basically right now is taking on a life of its own.
Okay. All right, brother. Thank you very much, and best of luck to you. Keep on keeping on.
Thank you.
All right.